Now, this is the last video of this food series, and I'm going to state that it's not a physical example, it's a simulation, but simulations are based on the imagination, and the imagination, when you exercise it, it's more potent than seeing something at times because you're imagining it, you're putting things together in your brain. You can see a physical picture, which I'm allowing you to simulate, and it all comes together so you have an understanding. So it's not always the case. Sometimes a picture or it being shown in front of you paints a million words, paints the best picture, but sometimes your imagination does that better. It just depends on context. In terms of something, I don't want to go into heavy psychology lessons, but in terms of what you see common, because you see them so commonly, often your imagination in relation to those common items is more potent than seeing it because you see it so often. So if I show a bike and give you some sort of example relating to that bike, it's just a bike. You see that in a bike. Nothing special comes to mind. If I say the word bike and force you to think of the bike, a more powerful image occurs. There's this threshold of commonality. That's what I don't want to go deep into so I don't confuse you. But in other words, something you see often sometimes is most oftentimes, if not all the time, better understood, simulated. So rather than me going outside and picking all these food items, we're going to imagine the food items in a very clever way. Well, I hope that you agree with me that it's clever. And it's very similar to what I was trying to illustrate in the water series. I wanted you to do some research, because water and some of the things I was explaining are common items. And when you research it yourself instead of me showing you, you start to build this imagination, this potential, these concepts. And when you put everything together in this entire course, you start to become an urban survivor, because you're using your imagination mixed with new concepts that you see. So there are some things I definitely had to demonstrate, because if I were to say them to you, you wouldn't appreciate them, especially, for instance, with the opening the door examples. You wouldn't know what I mean by lifting up the door and budging it, so I have to show you those things. But in terms of condensation, water, and other little things, solar stills, they're the things that are probably better for you to research yourself. And then there are the instances where you should research yourself, because even if I show you, it's better understood when you wrap your mind around it. So that's how courses should be delivered in my point of view. A lot of courses don't deliver their material properly on that basis. Many do. So I'm showing you a simulation now. It's not meant to make you laugh. It's not meant to amuse you, because it is a novel. So you'll probably think, what the fuck is this guy doing? That's pretty clever, but I get his point. So, and it also works for me, because then I don't have to go out and get it, go into people's yards. I mean, I'm urban surviving. I'm definitely in an urban survival situation, but I'm getting food from the supermarket. So, do I want to scare people and walk in their backyard and take fruit from them? No, I don't need to. At most, I'll have a shower or something, because I need to. But I don't have to go in people's yards and get what I want. And what I'm going to show you is realistic. So we're going to draw some food items, cut them, and fry pan them. I know that sounds silly, but we're going to do that so it's physically shown to you, but you've got the imagination, and you know how the imagination works. This is my vivid imagination at play, and you'll see how my mind operates by showing you this. So again, I'm going to show you real ingredients. Well, they're not real ingredients. I'm going to show you ingredients that are based on realistic things you can achieve or obtain from the urban environment. I'm not going to show you a lobster or, the fine ingredients, exotic things, and we're not going to start making the most Gordon Ramsay meal there is, but at the same time, we're going to try and make the most Gordon Ramsay meal there is, if you understand what I mean. But not with unrealistic ingredients and with a reasonable take. And this is the meal I'm going to show you is meat. Okay? You're in a survival situation. You're trying to survive. I've got no fucking time for vegetarian and vegan stuff. I have full respect for those people and what they want. I'm not arguing that. But this is just going to be a meat-eating edition. Okay? If you're a vegetarian or vegan, I fully respect you. Just let's not get in the way. And I'm more than happy for you to use all this. This urban survival course is definitely for you, but just omit the meat if you're not happy, okay? Find something else, which I'm not going to go into. I'm sure you can be creative. But this is going to be a meat meal we're going to be a little bit creative here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do something different. I've got something set in my mind, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to ideate together what we could make. Something common, but something that could be whipped up as an exotic thing. I don't know if it's a... Fuck, there are heaps of French dishes, but we're not going to go into... I think it's stupid to go into fine dining or higher end stuff. I mean, we could do sirloin steaks and all that sort of stuff, so at least sirloin steak style. But it's starting to get ridiculous. We'll come up with something and we'll do it on the go. But as I said, the idea is that what I'm going to show you is realistic. With a little bit of searching, you can find it. And look, at the end of the day, if you can't find all that stuff, I'm sure you get the idea. I'm sure you can start to put things together and go, oh, wait, hold on a second. If we can do this with this, we can probably do that with that. So I'm not going to go through every single fucking gourmet meal we can go through. I'm just going to give you an example of one gourmet meal we could make. And then we'll go from there. Okay? So, understand the principle. And we all know how I like to circularly emphasize things. Again, this is a simulation, realistic ingredients. You're in an urban survival situation of any sort, and you've got this gourmet meal state of mind because you know there's food out there, and you know that, you know what, not only can you survive, but you can thrive. And this is not departing from the essential survival principles. Oh, wait for it. 1, shelter fire. 2, signaling. 3, water. 4, food. We're not departing from those, ever. So this is not, going into fairyland. This is saying, yep, not only can you get food from the urban environment, if you know a thing or two, you can make it spectacularly gourmet. And you can even ration things properly, store them properly, extend their life, and so forth. But I'm not going to cover that in this course at all, let alone the series. Storing food, HACCP, all that stuff is excellent and needed, but that starts to go off the survival essentials. But it would be okay just to say that, keep in mind, you should think about your food storage so you can extend it, keep it at the right temperatures. That way you extend its life. That's the main thing, extending its life. You're not so much worried about food poisoning, although it can happen and you should be wary of it because you're in a survival situation and you've got to think. And I'm sure you'll be able to smell, see, touch the texture, feel, etc. Food that's off. But extend its life. So store it properly, ration it, don't just abuse it, don't have overcooked stuff that you've got to throw away. Save every bit of food that you come across, okay? Understand that. Keep that in mind. Now let's get right into it. So here's my pad. What can we cook that's somewhat gourmet, okay? An Australian gourmet meal that we all crave every now and again with beer or something exciting. Something that you'd think we couldn't whip up in the urban environment in an urban survival situation. Let's be highly creative, okay? But something that we really, really enjoy. Schnitzel with mash and salad. And perhaps even a gravy. There we go. Done. It's decided. That's one of my favourite dishes. I mean, we're not talking about... That's not fine dining at its best or fucking high end, but for us Australians, it pretty much is. It's a pub meal and it's beautiful and made properly. It's the best fucking meal there is. It's my favourite food. I'll repeat that. But chicken schnitzel is by far my favourite food. There's nothing else I like more. Believe it or not even a burger. And everybody knows how much I love burgers and kettle chips. And everybody knows how much I love pizza. So a chicken schnitzel is my favourite meal. It's the only thing I'll ever give a 10 out of 10 if done properly. So schnitzel, a big yes. So chickens, we don't have to. It doesn't have to be a chicken schnitzel. A schnitzel's a schnitzel, okay? So we're not going to be fussy. A veal schnitzel, fuck, we're not going to get fine meat. Okay, we're going to get a fucking bird. Okay, birds are common. There's galahs, there's fucking all sorts of shit out there. There's exotic birds left, right, and centre. And birds, if you know how to catch them, are fucking easy to catch. They're easy catch. And I'm not going to turn this into a trapping series. You can learn how to trap outside this course because it's not a survival essential in the urban environment. It is a survival essential, if you ask me, in the wilderness because it relates directly to food. And you just don't have places in the wilderness that store food or you could come across, generally. So I'm not going to include it in urban survival because I think that's ridiculous. But necessity is the mother of invention. So anyone who knows a thing or two about ropes and little traps and bait, I'm sure they could devise something even without reading about it. But if you want to, outside the scope of this course, once you've covered the entire course, not whilst you're doing it, after it, look into trapping and go, oh, okay, that's how I can trap a bird. Because it's easier to trap birds. So you're unlikely to come across a chicken unless you happen to live around a suburb that has a lot of Maltese Australians in it. For some fucking reason, they love rabbits and chicken. You're absolutely guaranteed to find a rabbit or chicken if you're out near fucking Horsley Park, fucking near all the places near Penrith, like Windsor Downs. Marsden Park. I've got all cousins that live out there. You're definitely going to find rabbits and chickens there. So if you're out near Penrith, okay, you're in luck in some urban survival situation. But generally speaking, around the world, which doesn't always have Maltese Australians in high concentration. Oh yeah, and I forgot, if you live in Greystanes, you're fucking loving life. You just got to pop over someone's backyard and you'll definitely find a rabbit or chicken. That's also Maltese Australian. So, I speak from experience. Fuck, even in my grandfather's backyard, and he's not even a chicken enthusiast, and he has like fucking 6 or 7 chickens. Oh, fuck, I love him. But he they're his pets. He actually loves them. He has an affinity with them, and he loves their eggs. So, if possible, you don't even, if you can raise chickens, you want them for the eggs, because the eggs keep them coming, whereas the chicken doesn't. Well, depending on if you've got a rooster or not. But another story for another day. We're just saying that, generally speaking, in most places in the Western world, you're going to get a bird. Okay, birds are survival experts. Birds can just hone in, grab something, fuck off, sleep somewhere. They're safe. They've got magnetic resonance fucking faculties, and don't quote me on that. It's something to do with magnetism. They can sense magnetism. They can sense all sorts of stuff we can't sense. They've been around since the start of evolution, so they know a thing or two. They're directly related to dinosaurs. They're the survival master. Birds are much more survival masters than humans, hence why they fly. They chose to fly for a reason. They're fucking brilliant. They know where water is. They can see everything down low. They're Mother Nature at its best, especially an eagle. An eagle is the cream of a crop. But, catching an eagle is not an easy fucking thing. So just stick to your regular bird in the Western world, and we're going to make a bird schnitzel. At the end of the day, it's just a different type of chicken, right? Because it's a bird. A chicken is a bird. So this is Tweety bird. Oh, fuck no. Why am I drawing a dinosaur? Fuck. I have a habit of drawing a dinosaur instantly. How am I going to draw a bird? I'm not good at birds. Okay, please. I'm drawing a small ducky. I don't know why. So you find plenty of ducks in water. Okay, there's your fucking little chicklet bird, whatever. I don't know why I'm drawing a chicklet. I'm going to draw a fucking circle around it to cut. Because I'm going to cut all these things. So there's a chicken. I'm just going to call it chicken. Okay, that's chicken. Now, we can find that everywhere. We can bait it. And remember, you've got to do this you catch the meat last, right? Not first. You get all the other stuff first, chicken last. And as soon as you've got all your ingredients, the live meat, that's when it's all on. Okay, time to prepare the schnitty. Time to prepare that's not a chicken, sorry, it's a bird. What the fuck? Why did I write chicken? Am I fucking losing it or what? It's a birdie schnitzel. So, bird. There's bird. Okay? But remember, even though I've drawn this first, it's the last thing you catch. Okay? Now, to make a schnitzel, obviously we need 3 things. Egg, flour, and breadcrumbs. That's it. It's a standard schnitzel. You can put herbs in there. You can cook it in a particular way. You can use panko crumbs. You can fucking put it. You can either deep fry it, shallow fry it. Fucking plenty of ways to prepare the great schnitzel. But we've got to understand we're going to be pressed for an egg wash. We're going to be pressed for flour. And it's very easy to manufacture breadcrumbs from the back of some trees and the flour they can produce. There are Australian trees where at the back of the bark, or even in any wheat field you find, you can process bread and make a bread. Once you make a bread out of anything, you've just got to fry the bread. But that's obviously from the flour. So you've got, in other words, you've ticked flour, you've ticked bread, but egg is not so easy to procure. And it's an egg wash. The egg wash is so the flour coats it. Oh, so, you fucking jaboosh. Other way around. The flour goes on the... I was thinking of something else I used to make in the kitchen. The flour goes on the meat first to coat the meat so the egg wash sticks to it. Otherwise, the egg wash will slip off the meat. And then the breadcrumbs go on top of the egg. I hope I got that the right way around. I'm sure I got that the right way around. I'd be very disappointed if I don't. That's how long I've been out of the kitchen. But I'm going to go with, in any case, it's not the end of the world because the breadcrumb will stick anyway. But to get maximum efficiency, you want to flour the prepared bird, apply the egg wash, and then the breadcrumbs. And the way to do that starts from the flour, because water can be procured from wherever you get water from, as I've shown you in the water series. Flour, we're just going to put here, instead of wheat, well, actually, no, or fucking in the wheat field. And I'm going to circle it. So, tree or wheat. And you can find many plants, even in the open, of natural wheat. So, tree or wheat. Now, the egg. That's the interesting part. You can find eggs, but you won't always find eggs. Okay? So, before we go on, we'll get through this. Eggs make life a lot more simple. Now, if there's birds around, there could be eggs in the tree. If you can find a nest, you'll almost certainly find some. If you can find chickens and other things in the backyard, there are emu eggs. There are a lot of different types of eggs you can find if you know what you're looking for. But that's going to be harder unless you go in an urban survival situation through people's houses. So you've got the choice of applying an egg, but we're going to omit it just for the sake of this series because it's not as common as the other stuff we're going to get. So if you come across the egg before anything else and you're doing this, if this was a real life situation, then you've just got to apply the egg after the flour. So you've got the floured bird just coated softly, and then the egg goes on top of that. You dip the bird, the prepared bird that looks like a chicken schnitzel fillet, you dip it with the flour coating into the egg, take it out, and that's when the breadcrumbs go on top. But we're not going to worry about the egg. We're just going to go for the flour and the breadcrumbs, which is this. Now, in any case, you're going to need water. So, that's an ingredient. Water. So we're going to need water to make a slight paste for the flour that mimics egg, pretending we don't have egg, that the breadcrumbs can stick to. Okay? So that's what the H2O is. To do that, as well as make actual bread to get breadcrumbs from. So H2O, bird, wheat, or tree for the flour. We've very much got the schnitzel part sorted. That's the schnitzel. Believe it or not, you're looking at a nature schnitzel. That's how easy it is. Now, you may look at a schnitzel at the pub and think, fuck, this is out of this world. They must fucking put it through a manufacturing process and blah, 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 blah. But right now, you're looking at a very different, but a well-simulated schnitzel. That's it. You're staring at the schnitzel. Obviously, if you can find the egg from wherever, then you've definitely got it happening, it made, but we're going to go the hard way. So there's the schnitzel. Now, the chips, it can go several ways, okay? I would recommend you don't make chips and that you settle with a type of mash. Now, obviously, if you find a potato crop, if you find stored potatoes in someone's house, because in an urban survival situation, a full blown out one has no limits and you can go doing that sort of stuff. Then you've got potatoes, and that's excellent. You can make chips. You can make mash. Obviously, you need to boil it, or you need oil for that. But I'd rather not go through the process of seeking natural sunflower oil or oil from something or anything like that. It's better to stick to the mash because it's a simpler schnitzel. A schnitzel or mash. It comes out more like a parmigiana, but it's still a schnitty. Schnitty is a schnitty whether it's on mash or on chips, although chips is 1,000 times better and proper. But mash is equally valid. So we're going to go with the mash, and we're not going to look for potato crops because around the world, on average, potato crops you don't come across all the time in urban environments. You probably will, but understand that all a potato is the root bulb or something to that effect. There are plenty of root bulbs which are edible. Now, I'm not going to name you all of them because if I do, you're going to be under the false impression you can just grab any fucking greenery or out there, rip it from the roots and eat its root. No, some are poisonous, some are hazardous. So that too is why I leave it to you to research so I don't mislead you. You need to do research, especially when it comes to fucking plants. Oh, Jesus, you've got to be extra cautious. Just the other day, someone died from mushrooms. Unbelievable. So there are plenty of root bulb plants in Australia that are potato-like, but you've got to do your research. All over the place. You can't go wrong. They're everywhere. I bet you I could go outside and start ripping out shit and find it immediately. Is it a potato? No. Is it edible? Yes. So it doesn't matter. There's fucking green plant. And there's at the bottom of the root, there's the bulb. Like a potato, although a potato doesn't generally grow shit like that. So we're just going to call it root bulb. Now, it doesn't matter. It may be tough, it may be different to cook than a potato, but you can still boil it and you can still mash it. Okay? And that's the main thing. I'll say it again. You can still boil it and you can still mash it with water. Now, if you have milk around or butter, that's excellent. But do you have time to milk a cow in an urban survival situation? Do you have time to produce milk? Do you have time to make butters and cheeses and all sorts of stuff? No, you don't. So you're just going to have to stick with a humble mash from water, unless you've got those lying around, which you can add. So again, we're sticking to the very, very basics. But at least in a survival situation, that is still luxury because you've got a luxury item to work from the basis off. So when you do get some good items, then you can really get cracking, and that's something to lay as the platform for all meals in the future. That's the whole idea of this gourmet thinking. Okay, so we're sticking with this is the mash part now, mind you. So there's schnitzel, line, mash part. So there's your root bulb, the actual potato. We're pretending that's a potato. And now salt. Okay, to season the mash, we want to put a bit of salt and pepper in there, but it's not easy to find salt unless you evaporate it from the ocean. And again, urban survival situation, not everybody lives right next to the ocean, and it's probably not worth going out of the way. Now, there are a lot of herbs and things you can add to the mash. That's also true. People grow, you'll probably walk out someone's front yard and find an array of herbs, sweet, but they're not precise in terms of finding them on average in each location. So you're going to you'll find a herb here, you'll find a different herb there, you might find mint there, you might find oregano there. So that's why we're not going to include it. But if you come across that, you can chop that very finely and add it in your mash. So again, for here, H2O. So that's essentially all you need. And obviously you need your cooking elements and that, but that's a given. And we've covered that already in another series. Or no, I think we covered it in this series. In the water series in terms of procuring the water. So root bulb, H2O. That's all you need. Now, as I said, the salt or the cheeses, the pepper, the herbs, that's all extra. And I'm sure you can get it, but we're sticking to the basics here. So that's that, okay? Covered. Okay, schnitzel covered, mash covered. Now, here's the beauty, okay? This is where I can be a bit lenient in terms of adding whatever I think is on the top of my mind, because you're always going to find an exotic mix of vegetables in any given suburb drawing a 500 metre radius. So this is the exotic salad that you make to keep you healthy. In any given suburb, we're going to, and all you need is 5 ingredients at most, okay? We're probably going to find an onion in someone's yard, one way or another. Onions are popular. And depending, there's also the seasonal factors, but we're just going to pretend they're growing at the same time. Onion. So, onion. Okay. Cherry tomatoes. I'm just going to put CTs. I'm sure you'll understand what they are when I cook them. Okay, there's onion. Well, we're not going to cook them. But anyway, there's the onion. There's the cherry tomatoes. A lot of people have fucking that loose, weird fucking lettuce in their yard. It may not even be the actual lettuce, but a lot of people have lettuce or greens. So there's a lettuce, onion, cherry tomatoes, and because we want it to be gourmet, we want to add a few things. I mean, that would probably suffice as it is, as a nice thing to eat. What else could we add to this to make it that much more gourmet? What do you have with the schnitzel besides lettuce, onion, and fucking cherry tomatoes and gravy? Oh, yum, my mouth is drooling already. I mean, you could think about carrot. That's not bad. Carrots actually more common than you think. So, yeah, carrot. And chili. Okay, I know chili's chili, but it still comes as like a capsicum thing. So you can julienne, which is to very finely slice the chilies and make it like a sort of capsicum ingredient. So little chilies. And there you go. You can mix that together and you've got a salad. Now, obviously, what kind of fucking schnitzel would be a schnitzel without a sauce? Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This may blow your mind. Okay? I'll get a little section here for that. You've got worms or grubs or any other insect that's edible. Okay? Hot. H2O. Okay, it's very, very simple. These insects have to be artificially dried. So if you're starting from scratch, this is the first thing that has to be procured, because you've got to dry the insect or the edible insect, the grub or the worm in the sun. You've got to dry it for at least until it's dry. It's got to die. You've got to kill it humanely, and then you've got to dry it. And then once it's dry, you cut it as fine as possible until you've got a lot of what looks like powder. And then to make that more somewhat tolerable, if you've got pepper around, which again isn't a common item, but if you've got it around, or a salt or some herbs, you can mix a little bit in just to make it that much more tolerable. But believe it or not, this makes a funky gravy taste, grubs or slugs. So you've got a gravy here. Now, you might not know that, but guess what? You've got a little protein in gravy, and it tastes nice if you do it properly. It actually doesn't come as a worm or sluggish taste. It comes funky, especially if you put a bit of herbs to it. Especially if you make that little effort in this part when you're getting all this stuff, and you get the herbs. Because once it's in someone's yard, because once that's dried, you can just leave it aside. You've got a day or two to get the rest, and it's still going to be there. And that's when you can put the herbs towards the end and mix it with it. And you make it like a typical gravy, like the sachet gravy. And you get it to hot, you get it to a thick consistency, and bang, you've got your gravy. So there's your bird schnitzel. Okay, there is your bird schnitzel. It's a schnitzel with mash and salad in a gravy. So let's just put it together quickly so we know what we're doing. I'm going to pause it and then make it once I cut these. So I've cut everything, and I want to beforehand apologise for this atrocious state the kitchen and room is. It's probably not that bad to your likings, but it's atrocious to me, but it is because there's no running water. So even still, I've got all this water so I can, disinfect, sanitize everything as much as possible. It's not easy because I need it to drink and wash and even shower, as I've shown you in the shower thing. I've got 3 left, so that's 4.5 litres. That's going to last me about another 12 hours. I drink a lot of water and use it for other stuff. So I apologise for the state of the kitchen. It's not an example for you to follow. When I've cleaned and showed you how to clean, that's an example to follow and to keep it that way. But anyway, it's another story for another day. We've got our ingredients, I've cut them. First thing we do, when we've got our tree or wheat, is process it finely to make the flour. And you can research that. You just need to know that the back of particular trees, the back of the bark or wheat, has flour, or little, not granules, but a thing you can scrape off to make flour and make patty cakes and all sorts of weird shit, make bread, blah, 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 blah. But the point is, it's wheat-like, and you can turn it into a flour if you cut it as fine as possible. And whether that's the back of the tree bark or wheat or whatever you find, that we have an abundance of in Australia, in native plants and plants in the field. So that's that. You process that for flour. You keep flour aside to coat the bird schnitzels, and you keep a water wash aside for something I'll explain in a moment. And you also make bread just out of water and the flour, very simple bread, without anything else. Obviously, if you have a bit of salt and oil, that would be great, but let's just, if you don't, you're just going full damper style. You're making the bread and you're cooking it, whether you're oven or you're doing it through a modified oven or in the fry pan, because you can make bread out of a fry pan. You just got to make the bread. Now, once you've got that bread, all you've got to do is finally, and it's very crisp, all you've got to do is slice it into slices and then process it again by chopping it finely to get what we know as, crispy breadcrumbs. That's cooked crisp bread, okay? Nothing else. If it does have a coating, a crust, naturally from cooking the bread, that's the part you want to use. So now from that, you've got the processed flour, water, and those cut breadcrumbs. That's that. So, and we're not in the fry pan yet. So how are we going to do this? We'll do it together. So again, this stands for, actually, there's a water here. That's what it's for. So there's the water. There's the flour, but it also doubles as the breadcrumbs we've made. So now that we've made breadcrumbs, we could actually make this, we could turn this into breadcrumbs. Actually, we can do that. Remembering those breadcrumbs came from this and the water, right? As I explained. So BC, they're breadcrumbs. I'll fold this. Now all we're doing is processing this bird. We've skinned it, we just caught it, we're laughing, we've got a meal, and we've got it into chicken schnitzel-like fillets. All we're doing from this point is coating it in the flour and then slightly dipping it in the water. It's not egg wash, but what happens is the flour comes slightly pasty. I think you do it 2 or 3 times. And then what happens, like as in flour, water, flour, water, flour, water. It's not good for the hands. Your hands become pasty, but remember to keep one hand for that process and the other hand clean. So your clean hand treats the breadcrumbs only. So you're going backwards and forwards until it's flour and water pasty. The whole idea is so the breadcrumbs stick, that's it. And now you've got this pasty fucking bird, hopefully done optimally. You dip it in the breadcrumbs, coat it, and now we've got a breadcrumb bird, right? And we do that with every fillet we've got. Let's just say we've got 2 birds and we've made 8 fillets out of that. Then this is now 8 birds that's schnitzelized. So we're going to leave that aside on our preparation bench. We don't want to leave it for more than 5 or 10 minutes outside because that's when it starts, that's when food poisoning may occur. So the second it's done, we should have the bulb. Where is it? We should have this bulb ready to put in hot water. So I should have explained first, actually, that you should have the pot of this water that belongs to the potato-like bulb. You should have that going, so it's already hot by the time you've schnitzelized the bird, as I've shown you. So that all should have been occurring as this water in a pot was heating. So the water in the pot was heating at the start before you even started all this, and it was heating while you did all that, 5 or 10 minutes. So you've got the water going. Now this, you could either have peeled beforehand, washed, clean, or peeled as soon as you finish that and quickly washed. I would recommend that you have it peeled and washed beforehand, so it can all happen smoothly. Cooking a schnitzel may seem easy, and it is, but to do it properly is another thing. Hot water in the pot going should be ready by the time that's done, but that should be peeled and washed even before the hot water is done. So just so you're aware, the peeling and cleaning and washing of this so it's clean, and then you can even quarter it so it boils faster, that should be done before you turn on the hot water on this pot. Then the hot water goes on by the time that's done, so the hot water's ready, and all you do is go bloop, in. It's ready. It's boiling. So now that's boiling, you can focus on the schnitzel, because this part's easy. I'll explain that to you in a moment. So the schnitzel, it's very simple. You're turning on your fucking, that's not that one. Bang, you're turning on your element. Schnitzel cooking. Turning it around, it's whatever. Cooking. All 8 schnitzels. Now I'll turn it off. You get the point. While that's cooking, and that's boiling, this is, mind you, where it's boiling is in the pot next door. I'm not going to put water and wastewater. That's boiling in the imaginary pot with water already as that starts to cook. So while this is in that pot boiling, and while that's lightly frying, mind you, it's got to be a little bit hot first, and you're doing it without oil. So you're trying to get a crisp fry on very thin slices. So you can you can warm the fry pan even just before you finish this, just so it's ready to fry, or you can do it just after you finish that, so long as you put the root bulb in the stove. And then where we're at now is we've got the schnitzel going in the hot pan, but not too hot so it burns. You just want to get it crisp on both ends. This is no oil, because we're not using oil. You could find oil from hard places, but we're not going to go there. If you've got oil, that's excellent, but we go on the very basic way. As I said, to work as a platform off for greater things. Schnitzel's going, just started going. So did that, but on full boil. That's lightly to medium frying on a hot pan. That's boiling full blast. We've got our hands free. Every minute or two, we've got to flip that, check it, all sweet. That just has to keep on boiling for about 10 or 15 minutes or so, maybe even less. And we've got our hands free for most of those minutes. And whilst you've got your hands free, these are all the veggies, or all the fruits or veggies, or whatever, the salad stuff. All you're doing is finding a place in your little kitchen. What did I drop? And preparing these. For instance, the onion, you'd brunoise. Julienne very, very finely for the schnitzel. At least I would. Or you can just half it and slice it. Half it, quarter it, so it's now a quarter, and then just very finely slice the onion. And you've got, it's julienne or brunoise or anything like that, but it's still very thin. So you can do that. You've prepared your onion very quickly. What else have we got here? Lettuce. I mean, with the lettuce, I would julienne the lettuce, which is thin strips. What's this? Cherry tomatoes, CTs. I would leave them as is, or half them at most. And this is all in individual, or at least segregated places on your preparation bench. Carrot. I would julienne the carrot very finely. Chili. I would julienne that very finely. And now you've got them all separate. You can get all this obviously still in their individual, not in the individual segregations, but that's when you put them together on your plate. I'm going to use a pizza thing as my plate for an example, because I don't have any plates here. Full urban survival. So your salads on that part of the plate. Remembering plating rules. 1, 2, 3. If I'm right, the meat should be presented at the front, the main part of the meal, the woohoo, while the rest is presented elsewhere. And it should be nice and neat. You've got the rim, you've got this, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens on the plate, the canvas, and so forth. So there's your salad ready to go. Now, desirably, we want the mash to be prepared before the bird schnitzel, or at least simultaneous to it. So once we know this is boiled, and you test it with something sharp, it should go through easily. Then water goes out, you get something hard, a spoon, mix the living remix out of it while there's still a little bit of water. Don't tip all the water out. Get it fucking very, very mashy. Then, this is all mashed now. You can spoon it onto this part. There. You spoon the mash there. Now, desirably, birdie, we've got all 8 fillets now, so we can start serving. It's been, all of them are fried, they're put aside on another preparation plate. Birdie neatly goes against the mash, so you've got this triangle thing here. And there it is, there's your gourmet thing. Now, the beauty is we've also got the gravy. I'm explaining them one at a time, but I should say that the gravy should have been prepared in another hot pot, or at least immediate, if you don't have all those pots and you're unlikely to, at least immediately once the mash has been done and dished in the plates. But if you do have another spare pot and another way to cook on the elements, 3 or 4, whatever, then you'd have done that at the same time as the salad. So it's in a cup ready to go. Mind you, all this is keeping in mind if you have if you have 2 cooking elements minimum. So in my kitchen, survival kitchen, I've got 1 and 2 cooking elements. I've even got that running off electricity, making that 3, and then my other burner 4, but that's another story. So we're just assuming you've got 2 cooking elements, a twin cooking element that is, or at least 2 cooking elements. If you have 1, you're just going to have to reorganize this in your mind to see how it will work. But generally speaking, this gourmet thing runs off 2 minimum burners or elements. Now look, at the very least, you can fucking make, as I've shown you in this series, you can make a whole bunch from the ground, but it's just going to take time. With the that rock example I gave you, and having a fry pan on a pot with tinder in a particular way, etc. You can do that. You can make a whole bunch of them. So it can work either way. One way or another, you can make it work. But the point is, if you've got the pots, then this should be at the same time made. This gravy should be made at the same time as the salad. If not, and you've only got that pot that you made the mash in, immediately after the mash, because that's all still going to be hot. You've just got to be very quick. Ensure that the new water you put in is boiled immediately. You don't have to put much. As I said, this would be dried days ago, and you can put whatever herbs you've got in it. You put that first. You put the water first. That gets boiled. Then you slowly introduce the gravy. Just keep stirring until you get the gravy consistency. Meaning you don't have to put much water. You've only got to get a little to get boiled. You've only got to bring a little to the boil. And you keep putting the fucking your grounded grub, worm, whatever edible insect in there. There's all that powder. You start introducing that slowly to the hot water, and you've got your gravy. That should take a minute or 2, and then you can just whoop, bang on, and you've got your meal. So that will be on all of it, or wherever you want it, on your salad, on your schnitzel. And look, at first you may not get it completely right, but after a few practices, you'll get it right. It does work. So you can make the schnitzel. It's actually practical. I didn't think of this beforehand, but from knowledge of cooking and everything, it is practical. There are many other practical examples, but this is definitely a base to work off. And as I said, rather than going full all out with all the exotic ingredients you can get, we're going with the very basics you can get. So that way you don't lose out. They come as an extra or a surprise, not surprise, as a bonus if you can get them. That way, as I said over and over again, this is the very basic, the atom of the urban survival schnitzel. Any extras you procure, virgin oil, fucking butter, salts and all that sort of stuff, you know where to put it, as I've explained, and that just becomes an extra outside this very basic but still tasty survival meal, because we've put sauce with it. And you will get some of the sodiums and other bits and pieces, natural sugars in the salad and the meat and so forth, the grubs, and it's all there. It's highly nutritious, it's gourmet, and it's the very basic building block of a solid meal in the day. You have one of these, a filling meal, and that will enable your survival. It will definitely enable your survival if you have this once a day with some fruit and bits and pieces. Absolutely. And you're doing it gourmet, and it's not unreasonable. These are the things that you can get from anywhere. So you don't have to. The point is, you don't have to go full Bear Grylls or, lose out. It's a myth. You don't have to make bad meals in a survival situation. You don't have to get your fucking mouth and go into dirt and eat the fucking dirt and yum. I'm eating grubs and dirt. You can actually make a few very, very tasty things if you just know a thing or two. As I pointed out in this video, it's the longest video I've ever made. It's 50 minutes. My Christ almighty. 9:19. Fuck, I started making this at 8:30. But it's worth it, because this is the finale of the food series, and this will give you something to hope for in a survival situation. You're not going to enter a survival situation thinking, I'm going to eat shit for the rest of my life, or at least for the term of my survival. No, you're going to be enthusiastic. You know what to look for. And these are realistic in an urban survival situation. Fuck, all these things you'll find easily, even if it was the end of the world. The only exception is nuclear warfare. That may fuck everything. But then again, you've got cans that may be stored, other bits and pieces. But that's another story for another day. I mean, we may go there. You'll have to do all your nuclear survival research, because that's not what this series is focused on. Although it does include principles pertaining, but you get the idea. This is all of what I've showed you is accessible in areas that are non-nuclear affected and places that can grow. But you'll get an idea of what happens in a nuclear environment and what's available if you research that yourself. There are a few good books, there are a few good courses. I would advise you do them if you take your survival that serious, but it's not essential, because not everywhere is going to be affected by nuclear fallout in a full blown out nuclear war. Movies are a bit over exaggerated. I mean, sure, some areas will experience very bad nuclear fallout effects, but the nuclear winter is not nuclear fallout. They're two different things. Nuclear winter is the Earth is not choked, but the Earth's atmosphere creates a nuclear winter, and everything becomes of a different temperature. And fallout still occurs in very strange places, but the nuclear winter is very different in terms of the consequences, and bad consequences, than nuclear fallout. There'll be a lot of places that won't have any nuclear fallout, or very minimal amounts, or even negligible amounts of nuclear fallout. Also remembering that even in the worst areas, after 2 weeks, everything divides by a certain factor. The fallout exponentially decreases by a factor of 7 or something each day, or each third day, and each week, and so forth. It just gets smaller and smaller, and after 2 weeks you can sort of emerge to a somewhat safe environment. But I think foodstuffs are still affected somewhat. You've got to do your research, okay? Just do your research with that stuff. This applies most definitely in all urban survival environments that are non-nuclear affected. But even, as I said, with the nuclear affected environment, you'll get a grasp of how you can work around it with what I've shown you. So I hope you enjoyed the series.